Blessed is she who has believed that which the Lord has said to her will be accomplished. This is the fourth Sunday in Advent, and it's the one in which we think about Mary, the mother of Jesus, in the lead up to the birth of her child, the child who will grow up to have a profound and lasting effect on the whole world. A woman whose story is told all too briefly in the Gospels, but who has become perhaps the most famous woman in the history of the world. This becomes even more remarkable when we consider the world in which she grew up and lived in. In first century Palestine, women lived a restricted life. In cities, they rarely left their homes, and when they did so, they were heavily veiled. In the countryside, they worked outside and collected water, but never alone. No man would ever speak to an unknown woman, for it was a mark of piety not to speak to a woman. Girls were not educated as boys were, and they were excluded from teaching in the synagogue. Women could not teach and were not even allowed to say the blessing at family meals. Women belonged to their fathers from birth. On marriage, they belonged to their husbands, and when widowed, they were looked after by their sons. Women were not allowed to be witnesses in a trial, and any religious vow they made could be annulled by their husband. Their husband could marry a second wife or take a concubine and divorce a woman for any reason. A woman could get a divorce, but they first had to persuade a panel of judges that they were neglected, in which case the husband could be fined before giving his wife a divorce. As a result, the birth of a girl was often greeted with sorrow, and a daily prayer contained the line, "Blessed be God who did not make me a woman." This is still the attitude today in many parts of our world towards women. This was the world in which Mary finds herself pregnant at perhaps the age of 14, whilst betrothed to a man of some standing in the small mountain town of Nazareth. The penalty for her pregnancy outside of marriage was death by stoning. So, as we know, Joseph agrees to marry her and then divorce her after the marriage. He must have been a compassionate man to even think about doing this. However, something remarkable happens to change his mind, and he takes this woman, this girl, to be his wife. Both Mary and Joseph were remarkable people, and their belief, their faith, and their obedience to God must have shaped the thoughts of Jesus as he grew up to be a man. Here, on the fourth Sunday in Advent, we come face to face with this remarkable woman, this very young woman, who obeys a call from God and the hope for the world, which that call will in time proclaim. She says, "My soul magnifies the Lord, for he has looked with favour on the lowliness of his servant." Mary begins to realise the enormity of what God is doing through her. Surely from now on all generations will call me blessed, for the Mighty One has done great things for me. And she makes a leap of faith and understanding and links her personal history with the rise and fall of rulers. He has scattered the proud in the thoughts of their hearts. He has brought down the powerful from their thrones and lifted up the lowly. She is linked to the experience of the rich and poor. He has filled the hungry with good things, and the rich he has sent empty away. If we had just a little of the faith and trust that Mary had, we too can believe that what the Lord has promised will be accomplished in our lives. So much of today's discontent comes from the fear that we count for nothing. Perhaps that is why there is this pursuit for celebrity, for that 15 minutes of fame, almost at any costs at times. But Mary's story can be our story, because it should tell every one of us that however unlikely we may think it, we, each of us, count in God's plan. We are all important in God's eyes. 2,000 years ago, God chose to come into the world not through the rich and the powerful, but rather through the poor and the lowly. In Mary, the ordinary becomes the extraordinary as she prays, "Tell out my soul the greatness of the Lord." Blessed is she who has believed that which the Lord has said to her will be accomplished.